Hi everyone, it's Saskia here. Today I'm back in the Tastemade studio and I'm going to be showing you how to make the perfect choux pastry. We're going to then make the most delicious choux buns, filling them with lightly whipped vanilla cream, topped with salted caramel and hazelnuts. It's going to be so good. So you can make choux with either water or milk or both. Water is traditional but lacks the sort of body and flavour, whereas milk gives it a really rich flavour. I think that using water and milk gives you a slightly soft texture and sweet taste from the milk, but really the best of both worlds. Choux pastry is kind of a cross between a dough and a pastry. It's quite egg heavy and it's actually a twice cooked pastry because you make it on the hob first, then cook. We're using plain flour in this recipe because I think it gives it a nice delicate finish. You can also use strong flour when making choux pastry, which is particularly useful when you're making eclairs because you want them to have a bit more structure. So we want to beat the mixture on the hob for at least a minute to drive off as much of the moisture as we can, because the more moisture you drive off initially, the more egg you can add later on, which helps the rise. You also don't want it to be too wet or they will spread in the oven. As you can see when you're mixing it, the egg tends to make it want to split and curdle, so if you were to add it all at once, you wouldn't be able to get the pastry back to a homogeneous mixture. The crackle top is more like a biscuit, I suppose. It's the same that you would use for a crumble, so it's Demerara sugar, butter and flour, and you just roll that out really thin, let it cool, and then stamp out circles the same diameter as your choux buns. And that just helps it have a really consistent shape. It gives them a lovely crunch on top as well, and a beautiful appearance. If you're not going to do a crackle top, you can just dip your finger in some water to make sure that you don't have a peak on top, so you can just pat that down. When you're piping, I like to use a cutter as a guide to make sure that they're really consistent, so you can just dip that in a little bit of flour, pop it on your tray. I really don't think you need to egg wash choux pastry. There's plenty of egg in there already, and it might not help them rise evenly if you egg wash them too heavily. For baking, I would go for 220 degrees and then give them a quick blast for about 15 minutes so that they really puff up, and then I'd turn down the oven to about 160 and give them another 15 minutes. You can even put a hole in the side of them to allow some of the steam to escape, to make sure you don't have soggy insides. Today we're filling our choux buns with a really lightly whipped vanilla cream. So that's just double cream, a bit of vanilla bean extract, or you could scrape out a vanilla pod, and maybe a touch of icing sugar to taste. I love cream because it really lets you enjoy the flavours of the sauce and the pastry itself. I think a fairly thick salted caramel sauce is best here because you want it to survive from the time that you're piping it to when you're serving it to your friends. You definitely don't want the salted caramel to be too runny because otherwise they'll go soggy. These are a really great special occasion dessert that you can make where it's not too much effort, but you look like you've really gone all out and you still have time to sneak one in the kitchen before you dole them out. They're rich, they're creamy, they've got this amazing crispy exterior, and you just want to eat thousands all at once.